Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, leading into a long weekend. I am Jen Bordeaux, and this is another segment of Family Law Uncorked with New Direction Family Law. And today I am joined by Mr. Mike Manning. Say hello, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello. And so we are going to be talking, we've talked about a whole lot of different things, these different Family Law Uncorked. And today we wanted to focus on small business during, I think, life in general, but especially during COVID recently. Everything has been a free for all. There have been so many quick changes. People have had to either pivot or just completely, change their either business model or perhaps even close their business, and just really reevaluate things. And we've got all these things that play into it, virtual, schooling and stuff like that. So excuse me, I brought in the big guns today to talk about, he's a business coach, and he'll introduce himself here in just a minute, but to talk about small business survival tips, what he's seeing in today's world with, small businesses that he's assisted with, small businesses that he's had in the past as well. And so with that being said, Mike, you are with Wired to Change. I love the name.
Thank you.
Sometimes, most often, we are so resistant to change, but it's a necessity, especially when it comes to business in general. And again, during these unprecedented times, I think everyone is tired of hearing that word, but it's still so relevant. So, but please, Mike, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to Wired to Change and how you help people now.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here today. My journey was involving sports for the rest of my life back in the early 80s. So it's natural that I become a business coach in 2019. Just you can connect those dots very easily. But I was in the corporate world for years in sports management, event management, stuff like that. And one day, my brother, who is a serial small business owner since about the mid 90s, said, "You know what? We need to find something to do together," because our skill sets were different. I just want to talk all day, and he just wants to work a computer and spreadsheets all day long. And we didn't care who got the credit. We just wanted to put the money in the bank. So we started a commercial cleaning company, I think in 2013. And then in late 2017, we started a pest control company, and we sold both of them last year. And that was when I had met my current coaching partner, Trinity French. And you know how when you meet people, you just kind of click, and we kept talking. It's like, we need to do something together. And I was ready to help coach and help people grow their business, because I've had some really good bosses and coaches along the way for me. And I wanted to help share that. And I just love the aha moment when you help somebody. That's what jazzes me up for the day.
I love that. So what makes, because I mean, I'm sure, selling a business, first of all, you went into business with your brother and everything. So what was that decision point of you guys deciding to sell your business and then obviously embark on a new business yourself?
For the commercial cleaning, it had kind of run its cycle on. It's very hard hiring and retaining. We always look for people that just wanted the side money. They wanted evening or weekend work. And it had run its course. It served its purpose, what we wanted to do, but we were ready to move on. And we got into the pest control because my sister-in-law is a broker, and my brother has a company, a painting and carpentry company with his father-in-law. So we thought one day, hey, while we're in the houses we're in, what else can we do for the customer? We thought, well, let's get a pest control going. And in state of North Carolina, you have to work for somebody for 2 years before you can hang out your license. And we'd gotten with a guy, and he wanted to expand the moment we met, and then he didn't want to expand. And so again, we learned a lot. It went well, but we ended up selling to a guy we knew a little bit in BNI, Phil Moretti with Ready Pest Services. And it worked out fine, because sometimes you start something, it's like, you know what, not quite what we looked at, especially if you're beholden to somebody else. And it was just time to move on. And my brother's since grown, both those businesses, and I'm doing a business coaching, so we're fine. But the commercial cleaning one went well. We were pleased with it. We learned a lot. We were a franchisee, so that was different. In the pest control, we were not. So we learned a bunch both ways and had a good time. We got to talk almost every day, so I enjoyed that part of it, because when I told people I was in business with my brother, I got those looks like, oh, family business, like, hang on a sec. We don't care who does what. We just want one of us to take the check to the bank, and that is all we care about. And it worked out well. Our mom was quite surprised that both of her boys wired completely different, and it just worked out. I've heard stories of others when everybody wants the credit. I know you've had discussions with people about family businesses, and done incorrectly, it can cause trouble, but done correctly is a blast. And we had fun, and just like I said, both of them ran their course. They accomplished what we needed, and it was time to move on. And so I'm coaching now, and my brother's working with his wife on one business and father-in-law on another, and everything's good.
That's awesome. Excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat this morning. It's not COVID.
Yeah, good. Glad I'm here.
So you bring such a great background and experience. I mean, from corporate world, first of all, and everything you were talking about with, sports management, to then small business management and that process of starting a business, selling a business, starting a business, working with families. So there's so many different facets that you bring to your business coaching business. And so if someone is, as I mentioned earlier, with everything, going on, I mean, and we thought when COVID, really first hit the States and things shut down back in March, everybody was like, oh, this will only last a couple months. By August, we'll be back to
Me too.
normal, Oh, I was one of them, and I think it was all wishful thinking. We didn't know exactly what kind of scenario we were in. And here it is, September. And things have opened back up. Some gyms just opened up at 30% capacity, I think, but some businesses are still closed and not able to open. Several people, I'm still working from home. Our legal teams, are back in the office because they have to go to court, since court's back open. So, but there are still a lot of things that are being affected. And so during this time, if someone was considering, maybe I should, think about selling the business, what advice would you say, like in that process of consideration, if it's coming across, or if it's, is it a good time to try to sell a business, or should you try to maybe change things and keep it going? What are your thoughts there? And I'm sure it's all person specific, and it depends. It's our favorite saying in the law firm. Yeah. It depends, because every person's situation is unique, but just as kind of an overarching tips, what would you say there?
Before you think about selling, if you have a current business, a couple of questions to think about is, one, can you manage COVID? So restaurants can manage COVID by increasing their takeout and their delivery. Our friend Coach Chris, personally fit with his gym, his ways of managing it were outdoors. He's blessed to have a little bit of an outdoor area, and then online. So can you manage that? You're working from home, Jen. Can a company manage with their employees working at home? So first of all, can you manage the elements that are affecting COVID today? And if you can, I would recommend keep doing it if you enjoy doing it. It's, you're able to pay all your bills, keep most of your employees. But then you have to make sure you pivot to, all right, my ideal client base is this. So do they still need me? And what else could I do for them? If you're a landscaper now, do they need pressure washing? Things like that. If you're, again, going back to Coach Chris, if you're a personal instructor, do they need health tips, dietary stuff that you don't normally do, but you have them there? So if you are stuck at home and your gym is closed, you're probably not exercising, and we're all guilty of going out a notch on our belt. Exactly. So if you're a personal trainer and you're online only, can you start talking nutrition now with your clients? The nice thing about that is they have that great relationship with their clients. So their client's going to trust them to go, you know what, I do need this. So then whenever we get released back into the public, I'm with you. I'm done guessing on when that day is. But when that does, now they've got that additional revenue stream. They've been doing this for 2 months, 4 months, 8 months, however long. So you can look at it as adding a revenue stream to your business. Now, if you can't manage COVID and you truly do want to sell, there's a lot of buyers out there. The good news is, if you don't think you can go on anymore, one option is just shut your door. The other option is to try to sell, and there are very good business brokers available, and I can introduce you to a couple, not a problem. Can you get some money for it? If you originally wanted, in a perfect world, you're going to get $500,000 for it. Now you get 125, but that's better than just, boarding up the place and walking away. So there are options. There are plenty of businesses being bought today because of that. It sounds kind of cold and unfriendly, but it is helping because some people are getting money versus, closing up. But if you can manage COVID, there are options out there because there are many of your competitors closing. So that's going to open up the marketplace for you. It's going to take some time. Not the good businesses, the businesses that will succeed are not aggressive, but they're very active. So they're more out in the community. They're doing more Zoom meetings. They're reaching out to different people they may not have talked to for joint ventures and partnerships. So you have to get a little creative, but you're probably going to have to be a little bit more active, but it's out there.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great, starting point of, can we manage this? I'm sure everybody kind of freaked out to begin with of how is this going to affect my business or our business? I mean, restaurants included, because they went from all of a sudden of, everything, it was just warming up a little bit into March, and it was like just getting shut down. And, they shut down like the day before St. Patrick's Day. Like they couldn't have given us one more day.
and real quick, if you can do business across state lines, the world is yours now. For example, I have been the last week, I was networking in Vancouver and in California and in South Florida. This Zoom world, if you can work across state lines, there are networking events everywhere. And Trinity and I, in March, we never thought of going outside the triangle because we wanted to do sit down face-to-face coaching. Not anymore. All of our coaching sessions are now online. They're going just fine. And what I found out was we can share a screen. So when we're working with a client, we ask them about something, they're like, oh, hold on, give me screen sharing and I'll show you the document. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Never planned on that. So if you can work across state lines, start looking at these networking events because there's likely somebody that could use you somewhere.
Yeah, that's awesome advice and a tip. I mean, I think too, just speaking to you and I originally met through BNI and the different BNI groups that we're in, and you had me on and on your podcast. Gosh, I can't believe it's been probably 2-3 years now. But even just for something like BNI, even though I'm a member of a specific group as you are, you can visit so many other groups. And in fact, now you can visit, because BNI is global. So you can visit BNI groups in another country if you want to, deal with the time difference there.
I'm visiting one in Boston this coming Tuesday at 7:30. Somebody reached out to me and said, why don't you come to my chapter? I'm like, great.
Yeah. I mean, and we just recently received a referral from a family law attorney in Chicago, and she saw my name, up there, and that the case happened to be in Wake County. And so she referred, it was actually like a referral through a referral but the person called us and said, you know what I mean? So it's just, networking across state lines and just having that resource is definitely a good tip to tap into if possible. I mean, we can't practice outside of North Carolina, but if someone lives outside of North Carolina and their matter is here, then that's definitely something that we can assist with. So, moving, talking about selling your business, when is a good time to look at that or what to consider? But now, one thing I guess like for us is that you worked with your brother. In our line of work with family law, we have married couples that might be in business together. And so we have to, if that's part of the divorce process, then we look at that, with business valuations and things like that. So have you ever been, as a business coach, this is out of pure curiosity, have you ever been in a situation where couples are, a couple is separating, but they are business partners, and you kind of had to navigate that and coach that, kind of situation? Obviously, we deal with the legal side of it, but.
Not yet, but for couples that work, married couples, because there's a difference between engagement and married.
Yep.
I'm not going to go into that. I'm not knocking either. That's not the point. But for married couples that work together, I have two questions. Well, first of all, I tell them, you have to say, we have one client whose husband is helping on the accounting side and the bookkeeping side. And I said, that's fine. Did you give him the expectations as the employee, not the husband? So he knows what to expect from you. You know how to talk to him about business so it doesn't affect your relationship. And she said, yes. And I believe her. The other thing is with married couples, I just have two questions only. What do you talk about at the end of the day? And who breaks the tie?
Mm. I mean, and those are, gosh, such big things to think about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been in business with a spouse, but I think about how close I am with the people that I work with and the decisions that have to be made, and sometimes the tough conversations that have to be had. And so I can only imagine if then the person that you had to have those conversations with were also then the person that you had to sit down at the dinner table with after having those conversations. So, I mean, I think that that's something really great to think about. And I'd never really thought about this before, but, having married couples, if they're thinking about going into business together, or if they are maybe butting heads about some business goals or ideals or roles, I mean, definitely reaching out to a business coach, to help kind of dichotomize that of like, these are the questions we need to ask. And, where does this start? And, the business relationship start and stop versus, your personal and your marriage relationship. So definitely be complicated, but there's people like you there to help.
If the business is in one spouse's name and they're actually running that, they're doing 70, 80, 90% of the business, and the other spouse is helping, that's fine. But they have to remember at the end of the day, somebody has to make the final decision. Your spouse may be your number one advisor, your most trusted ally. Wonderful. They can give you all the input they want, but if your decision disagrees with the advice they're giving you, you have to have set that expectation that I appreciate everything you told me and I hear you, but I really think we should do it this way. And you may know more at that time because you're in that business 70, 80, 90% of the time, but it's got to be clearly marked out who's doing what, how do we talk to each other, when do we talk to each other, your office, my office, at the end of the day, whatever it is, but you got to lay those expectations out so everybody knows what's going on, especially the minority spouse that is only, hey, I'm helping out. I only do this 8 hours a week. And that's why I use the word minority as a partner. But they, for more so than anything, they got to know, okay, what's my role here? Do you just want me to hand you the spreadsheet, or do you want my advice on one particular line in the spreadsheet? And either way is fine, but spell it out early, because
right. Set those expectations and those boundaries and stuff. So you mentioned, I guess overall, a good question for you is overall tips for small businesses. And this might, during this, I think in general, but during this time especially, that's why I labeled this small business survival tips, because, a lot of times with small businesses, I mean, this is your heart and soul that you're putting into something that you really believe in or have a passion behind, or it's a goal you've always had to own your own business. And so obviously COVID hits and you don't want to just throw your hands up and close the doors and feel forced to do that. So I know you've mentioned a couple of things. I think when you mentioned if you're considering selling your business, going back to the management piece, trying to take a step back and saying, okay, yes, COVID really sucks and how this is affecting is really sucking, but what can I do? What can I do? You mentioned, cross state lines, if you can do that way. Any other tips for surviving and or thriving, or helping to work towards thriving for small businesses during COVID?
It's your chance to get creative. If you've always, and one of the lines I hate in business, I know you've heard this before, well, we've always done it this way. No, that has to stop. So it's your chance to get creative. Oh, you know what? We've never done anything on social media. And social media has its place. I beg you to stay away from Twitter, but that's just a personal thing. But LinkedIn, are you on LinkedIn with a business profile? Do you post on Facebook and Instagram so people know, oh, I didn't know you were a dog trainer? And you've got wonderful warm videos of a dog playing with a kid, and you add that to your marketing plan of getting your word out. oh, we've never had to do that. Well, guess what? A lot of people hadn't had to do things before March. So what can you do different that's going to help keep the word out there? Because referrals come from relationships, and relationships, as we all know, are recency and frequency. So if you've not heard from somebody in 9 months, you in this day and age, you could have assumed, well, I guess they lost their business or closed their business. And like, oh no, business is booming. We've been here. Oh, I didn't know that. So stay out in front of your clients, stay out in front of your referral partners, your industry, your contact sphere, whatever you want to call that. Stay present there, whether you're just commenting on stuff, posting stuff, go set more meetings. There's no drive time anymore. So there's no excuse to do 4 or 5 meetings a day from your desk, period. No excuse now. You can do them every hour and a half. You can figure out the math, but get creative on finding people. Reach out to people you haven't talked to in a while. Find a new referral partner. Hey, I know you're struggling on this because you're in Durham and I'm in Wake Forest. Drive time, going to see clients. Hey, could we help each other out? It truly is a chance to get creative. Or you can start your own podcast and get the word out. I'm a big podcasting fan.
Yeah, podcasts are, I mean, we're getting ready to launch one. We've done
Yep.
several recordings. We're getting ready to launch one here very soon. And it's a great way to kind of let the veil down, so to speak, to still
Yep.
deliver really good information, still be professional, but also be personable. I think in-person situations or at a networking meeting, or, there's that buffer that's there, that professional want to be polished and everything else. And there's a time and a place for that. But I think podcasts really provide a platform to kind of let that veil down and just be a person that's talking about their experiences or, their expertise and just stories or knowledge that they have to offer.
And even on the Facebook lives like this, at the end of the day, people buy people. My financial advisor, my chiropractor, my banker, I told them they can work for whoever they want to in the triangle. I go where they go.
That's my hairstylist. I will follow him wherever he goes.
Yeah, but people buy people, and you're exactly right. They have to get to know you. We know, like, and trust through BNI, but an easy way to get to know you is a quick, and you don't have to do 30 minutes on Facebook Live. You could do 5 minutes. You could do a Tuesday tip,
right,
or Wednesday wisdom, or whatever you want to call that, once a week, just to get the feel of it and get a flow, get a pattern, and realize, you know what, I think I've got enough content and confidence I could do 2 of these a week. And that's all you do. But it gets you out there so they see you with the kids, with the family outside, in your office with your favorite picture behind you, or a trophy you won, or something like that. But the more they get to know you, the more they're going to want to get to know you and likely refer you, because they know, oh, I can send Jen to my, and again, I tell people, if you can't send a referral to your mother's house, then get to know that person better. But if you can, hey, I'd send this person anywhere. And it's because I know you first, and then I like you, and then I trust you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I would then venture out too. I mean, I know some people kind of have a bad taste in their mouth with BNI, just given personal experiences they may have. But it's also, if before you felt like you weren't able to visit, whether it's BNI or another networking group, I mean, I do feel like the seat exclusive ones are generally, there's more structure and accountability, a financial, stake in it too. But this is a great time because all of them are happening virtually. So you can visit numerous ones and get to know people and consider joining. I mean, that's been one of the constants, and you can speak to this as well. That's been one of the constants I know for me, is still having that weekly meeting, still having something. While it did move to the virtual platform, it was still a constant, even whenever everything else was changing, whenever we were pivoting to being a virtual firm and how we can assist people that way. BNI was still there, those familiar faces, those we could all, have the woes that we were experiencing, but still provides the opportunity to learn from one another and, who's doing what during this time, and, still help each other's businesses grow during a time that, has had so much uncertainty. So I would just add to, I'm not a business coach, but I would just add to that too, to just, things maybe you weren't making time for before because you felt like you were too busy doing other things. Now that a lot of those outside factors have been removed,
Yes.
Looking at ways that you can network or get involved and be, part of some sort of a group, because it really does
Yep.
help.
And with age comes wisdom. And I've learned I'm not too busy. I'm just a poor time management planner. And there are no excuses now of drive time, traffic, my car is, I need to get there's none of that anymore. Because today alone, I talked to a guy at 9:30 from Virginia. I'm on with you now. I'm moving to the Garner Chamber at 10:30. At 11, I'm going to a national networking group. And then this afternoon, we've got 2 new clients, all from
There you
this
go.
chair right here. So there are no, we've eliminated, like you said, many of the hurdles. And if all you have to do is coordinate your schedule now, you don't have to worry about drive time. Just put on a collared shirt. I mean, come on. It's
Yeah.
not networking is not going to get any easier than this.
Yeah. Well, I would say stand up and stretch in between
Yeah.
all those meetings in front of your computer. And I know that you've got something coming up, so I don't want to take too much of your
Oh,
time.
no.
But before we close out, the last question I have for you is that during this time, and I know that we have worked with, couples when they're divorcing, and sometimes that makes one spouse have to reevaluate professionally what they've been doing, or if they haven't really been working and they've considered starting a small business. Or for many people that unfortunately have been facing unemployment or were laid off due to cutbacks and everything with COVID. If someone that might make them refocus, I'm like, well, I've always thought about starting this business, or, what advice, and it might vary from business to business, I would imagine, but just some general kind of tips. If someone is considering starting a small business during this time, what, maybe would be the first couple of pieces of advice you would give them?
What problem are you solving? Are you just going into an industry you've always wanted to go into, or are you literally solving a problem? And do you think because you're well known and popular that people will automatically call you and go, oh, got to do business with you? Usually not the case. So what problem are you solving? How can you get that word out? Because people are not going to come early on in your business. They're not going to come to you. You have to go find them. Over time, the ultimate goal is to work by referral. But starting out, you're going to have to do all the legwork. So where are you going to go find, you have to identify your ideal client. You can't say all moms, in my mind, you can't say all moms because they're everywhere. What if you just want new moms? Okay, where are you going to go find them? How are you going to find them? What are you going to tell them? There's plenty of new moms out there. That's not the problem. But what problem are you solving for them? Or if you just want left-handed golfers, don't tell me all golfers, just tell me left-handed golfers. Okay, now I've got a visual. I know exactly what to look for. But what problem are you solving? Because if you just want to get in with like, oh, I've always wanted to do this, that's good too. But, and you got to get your name out there. Social media, Zooming everywhere. There's some networking events that are starting where they'll have 10 or 15 or 20 people spaced out. Again, that's fine too if you're comfortable doing that. But what problem are you solving, and how are you going to tell people about it? And are you prepared to give up whatever income you're making right now for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? Yeah. And if you're good, if you got the money for it, great, because that's usually what stops businesses. They just run out of money. But number one, what problem are you solving for the people today?
I think that's great advice. And I think that, I've never started my own business, but I have been with the founders of this firm and starting things up. So I've kind of seen, the backseat of things, but it can be very overwhelming. Even once you identify what problem you're solving, and it may be that your thought process is here, and working with a business coach such as yourself can help narrow that down into where you're really defining, okay, what problem am I solving, and then can start working on the next steps of how do I get the word out there. And then that brings in another level of marketing, because networking is a form of marketing, systems in place. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I think that's when working, like with you and your business partner with Wired to Change, that you guys can help people really focus in on that, identify that if they're struggling, no matter where they are in the process, and then help them develop a plan for how to really try to succeed with this. So with all that being said, Mike, if someone is interested in speaking with you and your services, how can they find you or reach out to you and Trinity?
They can go to wired2change.com, and that's the number 2, or they can email me at mike@wired2change.com with the number 2, or they can just reach out to you and you can forward them to me. So
Absolutely.
more than happy to help. I'll give you 45 minutes of a complimentary consultation just to see if there's a fit, see if we could help. So just reach out to me, however I can help you. I will do my best to do that.
That's awesome. And you guys, I think you and Trinity have a podcast as well, correct?
We do, called Wired to Change.
That's
so we
on
enjoy
point branding. I love it.
Yeah. So one of the things we got right going, I was like, hey, let's be consistent. But
Yeah.
we just love offering small business tips. We all over the place, from sales and marketing to tax to family businesses to everything like that. But we enjoy doing that every week, sharing some knowledge with our listeners. So it's a lot of fun.
That's great, Mike. Thank you so much for joining me today. There's been so many good little knowledge nuggets that you've dropped from just a range of things today, as far as considering selling your business, working with your spouse in a business, as well as, starting a new business and some survival tips during this. So again, thank you so much, folks that are watching live and later on. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Mike. I've known him for several years now. He's a good guy. Take a good look at the podcast and always great information there too. So Mike, thank you again for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful long weekend, holiday weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me on, Jen. I appreciate it.
Of course.